Reid, you need a haircut, man.
I know, man. I know.
You were looking fuzzy, dude.
I know. It's like.
I know. Why would you risk it?
Yeah, and I am prohibited from shaving it off. So
you are? What do you mean you're prohibited from shaving it off? There's not much left.
I said, well, let me just shave my head, and my wife and girls were like, no. So, all right.
Hey, your fucking head.
I know, but
Yeah, I know. You got to live with it.
Yeah,
boys, we're broadcasting.
Cool.
Hello.
Hey, we're talking about haircuts.
Yes, we are.
Or lack thereof.
Or lack thereof. Pandemic haircuts.
I got a black market haircut pretty early in the proceedings, and I've had a couple more. I had to.
All
right,
Eric Griffin, Andy Hong.
Oh, hell yeah. Hey, Andy.
Oh boy, we're in trouble.
Yeah, we are.
Yeah.
All right, so folks, we are going to get started. Hey, folks, welcome to the 7th installment of The Smartest People in the Room. I am thrilled to be hosting this one from one of Nashville's most important and well-respected venues, known as the Cannery Ballroom Complex. This building houses 4 separate venues, each of which is an important part of the Nashville live music scene. It includes the Cannery Ballroom, the Mercy Lounge, the High Watt, and a private event space upstairs called One. Hundreds of international touring artists have performed here as they were building their careers. One way that we can all support this important venue is to purchase some of their brand new merch via their website. And while the building is dark due to COVID, we can support them and their workers by also lobbying Congress to providing funding relief for these and hundreds of other music venues like them by visiting the NIVA website. It's NIVA. I'll show that on the screen in just a moment. In doing that, you can add your name to a petition. In doing so, your legislators will be notified of your support for this initiative. So please take a moment to do this by visiting the link that will appear on the screen momentarily. Before we get started, I need to take care of a little bit of business. I want to thank all of our sponsors, for without their support, we could not do this. You'll see all their logos there on the screen in front of you. First Horizon Bank, Bufkin Baker, Four Roses Bourbon, the Fairlane Hotel, Core Power Yoga, the Tennessee Entertainment Commission, Lightning 100, Tennessee Brew Works, Moo TV, Jive Printing, Project Music, and also Organics. So let's get this started. By the way, here is the link that I am asking you to visit. If you would, take a screen grab of that, visit that link, and you can fill out a very quick, sign your name to a petition that shows your support for live music venues. Without any further ado, I'd like to introduce our speakers for today, and it's not those guys, that's next week. It is these guys right here. Hey, it's live TV.
Boom.
For anyone who is familiar with the movers and shakers around the Nashville music scene, these two guys are quite well known, but their fame and fortune is in no way limited just to Nashville. Both of these gentlemen have well-documented, successful music careers that spread throughout the world. Today's interviewer is F. Reid Shippen. Reid is a multiple Grammy Award-winning mixer, engineer, and record producer whose credits include 10 Grammy Award-winning albums and over 100 #1 singles. His years of experience as a recording and mix engineer span multiple genres that feature a wide range of artists such as Ingrid Michaelson, Kenny Chesney, India R.E., Cage the Elephant, Little Big Town, CeCe Winans, Steven Tyler, Colony House, Lucy Silvas, and Dierks Bentley. In 2019, Shippen received the Academy of Country Music Award for Audio Engineer of the Year. He has previously served as the co-chair of the producers and engineer wing of NARIS, and currently serves as the chief creative officer for the music production house, The Music Playground. As an advocate for music education, Shippen teaches a class at Middle Tennessee State University and is co-founder of Song Farm, a creative-centered charity that focuses on providing creative curricula for secondary schools. He currently works out of Robot Lemon, his private studio located in Nashville, Tennessee. And joining Reid today as our special guest is Mark Montgomery. Mark and I have been friends for many years. In fact, when I launched my music industry headhunting practice in 2007, he was one of the very first industry leaders that I sought counsel from. He was very generous with his time and expertise then and has really helped me get my business off the ground and maintained it through to today. Thank you, Mark. A little bit more about Mark professionally. As a creative catalyst, he has spent a lifetime bringing transformation and innovation to entrepreneurship, tech, music, and consumer brands. Working with everyone from A-list artists to banks to venture firms, healthcare companies, spirits companies, large consumer brands, political campaigns, and startups. He's generated hundreds of millions of dollars of shareholder value and economic impact. His current work is focused on empowering creative transformation from guiding young entrepreneurs to advising C-suites at banks, consumer data firms, and disruptive tech companies. There's two constant themes: innovative leadership and a willingness to jump off a cliff for the right cause. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Reid, Shippen, and Mark Montgomery into the smartest people in the room.
Wow, that was an amazing,
Ouch.
that was an amazing intro that I don't know that I'm going to live up to right now. Okay, so I mean, let's go on record as saying we're definitely not the smartest people in the room. In fact, I particularly enjoy, and I know Mark does as well, like being the dumbest people in any room.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So, and we didn't rehearse this, so I'm sure we're going to screw it up a lot. But hey, Mark.
That's fine. Here we go. Hi. I'm good.
What's going on?
Well, right now I'm watching the woodpeckers come in, the feeders, talking to one of my favorite people in the world. I see there's some old friends in the house, Keller and C-Mac, and there's just glad to be here with everybody. And Tom, I really had no idea, and I really appreciate your kind words. My goal is to try to be helpful if I can. That's kind of how I'm trying to live these days.
Yeah, so we're going to have fun digging into some stuff. I'm sure this conversation is going to wander all over the place. One of the things that I wanted to say to everybody out there is please hit us with questions, often and early. And, we'd be happy to jump on some of that stuff. We're going to be talking about whatever, future casting, music, cannabis, minors in reality, maybe a little bit about Kanye West. Always about purpose, cliff jumping, stuff like that. So, I mean, Mark, you and I talk about this all the time. Like, where are we 30 years from now?
Yeah. Well, if I get my way, I'm on the beach in Florida in the Redneck Riviera, staring at the bottom of a cold glass of water. That's where I am. But I mean, I think even there I'd be doing something. I don't, man, that's a great question. I just want to be making a difference on something. Right? Yeah. I mean, you only get to go around the dirt ball once unless you're a Hindu. And so if you get one trip, make it count, and some of that is about blowing shit up. And some of it is about being still, which is kind of what, if you think about this, if this was pre-COVID, we'd all be sitting in a room, half the people would be at the bar, shit-faced talking about other stuff, and the rest of us would be talking about whatever the hell we're talking about. But we're all doing this digitally, and we've been doing it digitally for a while, and it's not fucking going away. So the course of the path has changed in a way that I don't think anyone really can figure out yet. Yeah. And we tried to normalize it. Turns out we can't. So what are we going to do about it now? And it's a fascinating moment.
Well, I think we're going to shift a paradigm, right? Like, there's no reason why you and I can't be having a business meeting with somebody tomorrow, like one person in Germany, one person in India, one person in Japan. And It really doesn't matter at this point, right? Like, our new communication is just, we're here.
Yeah. So where do you see yourself? We're going to turn this on. This is going to end up being me interviewing you when it's over.
No, it's not.
After the bio, we got to go the other way.
Well, so since you and I are just going to go straight personal on all of this, I'm not exactly sure. And I want to make sure that I am making goals that I can hit, because what you were just saying is you want to make a dent in the universe. You've made several. So do you feel
I
like
mean,
you've accomplished anything?
no, I mean, I feel like I've done some stuff. I think the things that matter have no dollar figure attached to them, right? Dents in the universe are often related to monetary dents, or that's how they're measured. If you're keeping that score, I haven't made a dent in the universe, right?
Really?
I think, yeah, well, but I also think that,
Wait, let me make a list. You've crushed music, tech, the largest liquor launch in American history, like a great media company, you know, that went from a college kid who used to rent a studio from me to like a 70, $80 million company. And now cannabis.
well,
Hemp.
yeah, hemp. Let's
Hemp.
be clear, but for now it's hemp.
Hedge.
It's all
Hemp hedge.
It's all the devil's lettuce, baby. It's all the
Right.
devil's lettuce.
Jazz cabbage.
Yeah. So, well, I mean, but those are, to me, you know, that was the scorecard. I kind of have a pre and post view of that. My best work is my daughter.
Yeah.
That's, you know, I mean, what's on my desk right next to me is Turning the Flywheel and The Conscious Parent, right? That's what I'm reading right now.
Yeah.
And frankly, I spend more time in The Conscious Parent than I do in the Flywheel, which is short. It should already be finished, and I can't put the other book down. So, and you know, when you think about that, right? Turns out I'm an adequate second grade teacher, and great. I'm a pretty good dad, right? Like I feel like the stuff that I'm supposed to be focused on is I'm doing okay at, and that to me is the dent. And then, yeah, when a kid who you or I or Ernest bonked on the head in A Minor in Reality sends you a text and says you changed the course of my life, that's a big fucking deal. And you and I both know. And if Beverly Keel's on this, thank you for protecting Reid and I from MTSU. Thank you, boss. You know, that's the shit that you can't. I mean, I get a chill thinking about it. You can't buy that shit. And we don't get paid to do that. We lose money teaching, but
yeah,
it's not all about money.
Well, there's your dent in the universe, right?
I guess. I don't know. I just get up and put my pants on the same as anybody else, or not today. I'm wearing board shorts because I'm going swimming after this.
No one's wearing pants.
It's summer. Honest. Yeah. Are you wearing pants?
No.
Okay.
I haven't worn pants for 3 months.
Oh boy, here we go. There's questions about future of.
Yeah, the future of live music performance. So one of the things that is obviously on everyone's mind is disruption. Okay, so I work in the music business. I'm a hospitality investor. Both of those sectors got gutted. Nobody saw this coming except Bill Gates, who talked about it 10 years ago, and nobody paid attention.
No. Remember, Bill Gates started this. It's his thing.
Right.
Right, wrong. Oh, sorry, wrong channel. I recuse myself of that conspiracy statement. Go ahead, Reid. I'm sorry.
Are we back on 8chan again? You know, like, let's futurecast a little bit. We've been in enough businesses to like kind of play this out.
I mean, this is a simple answer, right? It's, being in the rights business right now, owning Circle P and Circle C is where all the money is.
Yep.
Right, and we'll just watch what everybody's doing. You know. I got out of the music business a long time ago, and as you know, it reels you back in. You can never quite escape it. And I've been lucky. A couple of the catalogs that I've been involved with recently have sold. And I occasionally get phone calls from people saying, hey, what do you think of this? Or can you put me together with this guy? And I just watched another one get scooped up. Like, there is a ton of deal flow. And if you're smart, and you own your Circle P and your Circle C, and you are paying attention as a rights holder, there's people who are interested in what you're doing if you've built enough of it to be meaningful, because that's what everybody's trying to figure out how to do, right? So a good time to be, my tattoo that goes on this arm says bet on yourself, right? Time to double down. If you're a fucking artist, now's the time. But as soon as shit starts happening, what's the name of that girl that is Charles Alexander in the room? If he is, who's the girl, the MTSU girl that they broke out of the record company that was in Minor in Reality last semester?
I don't know that she was in a record company. She just blew up on TikTok.
No, she's a record company project for MTSU's label. There he is. Sarah Kays. We can't let Charles in on the chat because he'll just talk about Sarah till the end of the conversation. Match Records, right. So MTSU co-teacher Charles Alexander in the house. Charles, if you don't have a case study about that, you need to put one up, right?
Yeah.
But the point is, the future of music, the future of live performances, sit on your fucking hands for a minute because it's not happening.
Yep.
And you got to figure out another way. And that other way is competing with everybody who's doing webcasting. So don't make your webcasts boring as shit. Don't look like every Joe Schmo off the fucking street. Throw a party. Like do something outrageous. Obviously don't do anything too outrageous, but that's the game for now. And then as things come back and as you develop better models around where your fans are, then you can start venturing out into the world for live experiences, which all human beings crave. Right. And that's the secret. And that goes back to what Nashville does better than any other place on the planet. And that is write songs. Now, we write a whole bunch of trite bullshit, right? That look, love to have copyrights in those trite bullshit songs because they earn a lot of money.
A lot.
Right? But also if you've built great, meaningful, creative art, put it out and see what happens. And that's what you want to do. It's really fucking hard, right?
Yeah. But keep in mind that right now you have a very open and active audience. And if you can engage with them when the floodgates come back open for live performance, there's going to be a huge amount of pent-up demand. And I would say that from indie artists all the way up to guys like Chesney, like when he goes back on tour, he can double or triple his dates and it'll get packed because everyone is dying for that experience.
Well, there's also when you think about the level of analytics, if you have a competent believer, you need someone who understands data. And there's a lot of, data is it's big data, blah, blah. That's bullshit, right? The data just helps me make better business decisions. It does not solve problems for me. So get your data, get it straight, figure out what questions you want to ask it, and then get those answers and monitor the work.
Yep.
And you'll be able to see what's working and what's not. John Peets, in my humble opinion, one of the best managers to ever work in the business, once said to me, and by the way, Peets was famous for being a data nerd, right? Like he was all over, he had 5 monitors in his fucking office and they were monitoring the dashboards of all the, he was way ahead of his time. And then one day I went over to his office and I said, John, where are all your screens? And he's like, I took them down. I said, why? He said, I need everything I need to see now. I can go by looking in the first 20 rows of the audience live. And it's way more interesting, right? Because he had built his bands up that big, but he built them using data. Eric Church, right? That shit didn't happen by accident, man. That was him finding the right guy or girl and doubling down on them and doubling down on them. And then
does
watching
anything
it all
happen?
grow.
Does anything happen by accident, Mark?
I think in some ways it all happens by accident. It's just a question of whether or not you're adept enough at catching it when the time is right.
Preparation versus opportunity. Preparation and opportunity.
Well, both. Yeah, I mean, if an opportunity walked by you that you weren't capable of executing, well, then you're probably not that's not an opportunity. But if an opportunity walks by and you happen to grab it by the tail, and you can ride it, it's real.
All right, Zisk, this is a good question. Boy. Tons of money chasing catalog right now. Sell high or hold your rights. Brian, obviously there is a ton of money chasing catalog. The multiples are insane. Why? Ask yourself why. And that's, I think, the answer to your question, Mark. What do you think?
No, I think that's right. Look, I mean, my answer to that is it depends on how much cash you have in the bank and what you need to, if you need money right now, cash out, right? If you've got something that's valuable enough. Now, if your catalog is new, you're not going to get anything for it, so don't cash out. I mean, I hate to oversimplify it. And then the other thing is, and this is the other thing that people don't recognize, and look, when I sold Echo, I made the first, I only made this error once because it was, in a way it was fatal, right? If you're going to sell an interest in your asset, your idea, your company, sell 49% or 100%. Never sell 51. Dummy, 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 right? But that lesson kept me out of trouble since, and it's kept everyone who I've mentored through their own or participated in or fill in the blank was lucky enough to be part of that cap table. That was avoided. That problem never happens around me anymore. Just like we don't let dumb money happen around me anymore, right? I own too many t-shirts.
Yeah.
You know, I don't need it again.
So, hey, you know, you remember when you did that and you said, I'm never going to go back to being a CEO.
Yeah.
What are you doing? What are you doing now,
wait
Mark?
A minute. You're gonna bring this up, you fucker. Okay. Oh boy. Well, so can I tell it in the form of a story?
Sure.
So I got to watch .com go up and come down, right? I was in it. I got lucky. I didn't take any outside money, and we grew steadily out of cash as opposed to taking money and then crashing and burning.
Yep.
So I haven't seen a level of irrational exuberance like that since .com, and that was the great hemp bubble of 2018-19 that came down like a fucking lead balloon in the first quarter of this year, and then what was left of it was put in the ground by COVID. But I grabbed that by the tail when it was going, and the short version is I started looking at deals right before the Farm Bill became law, and we were going to see the creation of a new ag vertical, number one, and number two, more importantly, in my humble opinion, the beginning of the end of the repeal of this fraudulent legislation that restricts people from access to cannabis.
Yep.
Perpetrated by Dow Chemical, by large paper corporations. There's a whole thing, right? You can go back. None of that matters. What matters today is there's evidence that this is a drug that helps people, right? There's a lot of evidence in Israel that if we brought it over here, they're already treating their patients with it. It's part of the regular treatment routine in Israel. And they started with their military, and then they moved it to the general population. Now, how much health improvement? Who knows? We're in a world where you get a lot of different facts. But the short version is irrational exuberance, way up here, to answer your question, and caliber of team, like this, right? So it's timing and team. If you want to know the simple bones of investing, be there at the right time, which is not too early or not too late, and be there with the right people. And if you got those two things, the chances of success are far higher than if you've got a great business plan and a really great money, right? Mm-hmm. Doesn't matter. So I looked at that, and I was coming out of a period of time, as you well know, and I will never be able to thank you for what you did for me during that time. That was pretty fucking dark. And along that journey, I find my last stop on that journey prior to jumping back into the chair was the Hoffman process, which is a long story. I learned about it from Beth Nielsen Chapman, who's one of the greatest creatives I've ever been around. And when she said, you need to go to Hoffman, I'm like, okay, I'm going. And off I went. And it changed a big piece of my viewpoint. And I had been playing with this plant for a long time. I'm in the music business. And I had one of the first 60 licenses in the state in 2014 to start growing the plant when it was legalized in Tennessee 4 years prior to the federal change, right? We were way ahead in Tennessee. Still are, frankly. We grow the best hemp in the country. Seriously. But we don't grow it at scale. That's a whole other conversation. There's a political, but so I look at 20 deals, and I can't get comfortable. I can't slide the check across the table because I've done that and lost my money. That was the other big lesson I learned, right? You got to look the guy in the eye. Like, if you wanted to be a CEO, Reid Shippen, I would back you tomorrow. you already are a CEO.
Thank you.
You either are or you ain't. And if you want to be one, great, and try it. I'm not telling you not to try it. I'm just telling you it is a fucking road. And so I never wanted it again, but I could not get comfortable, and the opportunity was so big that I was like, I got to do this. And to me, the litmus test was simple. If we're gonna do this, how does the investor community gonna react? And I set up 2 what I call cattle call investor meetings, and one pre-one with a group that I thought might make up a good chunk of the money, right? So when you sell a deal, you got to have 3x what you want to raise at the top of your funnel. So I wanted to raise $2 million, so I needed $6 million at the top. We raised $16 million in 6 days. Check the irrational exuberance box. It's still there. And obviously they like the team we put together, and off we went. And long story short, I'll give you the short version of that, of where we are now. Weirdly, COVID has benefited our little company, and we are filing patents, and we have a very nice book of business, and we are chasing a marketplace that no one else thought they could get to, and we're actually opening those conversations now. I'm always nervous, but I'm feeling pretty damn good about where we are, and I think if look, ask the Lippman family what multi-generational wealth creation came out of the repeal of the liquor law.
Yeah, I was going to say, this is Prohibition 2.0, and if you read Ray Dalio, their fund went back and looked at examples to inform the future. So now we're looking at prohibition, we're looking at cigarettes, right? Like the full commercialization.
Look, here's the thing. When we were running the liquor company, one of the things you do if you're smart is you get on the board of the trade association. And the way you get on the board of the trade association is you write a check. It's not rocket science, right? Those associations they're powered by the membership who have an interest in moving an agenda forward in Washington. And at the time we were launching the rum, the liquor industry was vehemently opposed to marijuana, vehemently. But 5 years into it in Colorado, what they've recognized is actually, one, there's another syntax that they don't get it all the time, right? So they're always hitting the smokers, they're always hitting the drinkers, and they hit you at the gas pump because you got a ride. And now they got a fourth. So it turned out to reduce the economic pressure on them from a taxing perspective, and high people still drink. Right? Like people didn't go, oh, well, shit, I'm smoking weed now, I'm not going to, and some people are smoking it recreationally. And my question is there a lesser of two evils? And I guess that's a question you got to answer for yourself personally, right? Addiction is what it is. And that's a long, dark fucking road for many. Reid, you and I know many people who have been down that road, right? Yeah. So everything in moderation, but on the whole, liquor versus cannabis, I'm going to go with the cannabis plant every time. From a health perspective. Now, if you're smoking 20 joints a day, I'm going against you. But that's not. I had to get out of that headspace when I started the liquor company. Like, how do I feel about this morally? Well, the answer is, how I feel about it morally is I'm playing a game, and I'm going to play that game to win it. And when I win it, I get to take some of what I win and do something I think is important with it. Right. So like W.O. Smith School is, I have a charity of choice, and it's been them for 20 years. And they do really important work. And if I can make money doing something that is everything has a recourse, right? Everything does. So selling the heroin is not a business I think I could get myself into, because I don't think that's a good drug. Do I think cannabis is a better drug than spirits? Take your pick, right? It's all about moderation. It's all about how you use it.
Right.
I didn't mean to get off on that tangent. You should reel me in when I go down those holes.
No, it's like you believe in the product. This applies to business, music, like every aspect of your life.
Yeah, look, my Joanna got real relief from cannabis when she was fighting cancer. It's not that hard. You don't have to be very far away from it to see what it does. So that's where I got upset. Right. And we got it where we needed to get it. And that's, but that's, we know it's built on a lie. And by the way, that plant, the hemp plant, we exported all of our hemp technology when we outlawed the cannabis plant, right? In total, we also outlawed the hemp plant, and all that technology went to Europe. And now we buy all that shit from them when they learned it all from us. So and while I'm not a nationalist, let's if we can do that here, let's do it here. Even if it costs more, let's invest in our own people, and let's keep an eye on the rest of the world. But let's double down on ourselves, not on shipping our technology off because a bunch of old white dudes get uncomfortable that white women are going to have sex with black jazz musicians, which is the fucking myth that was propagated. Don't get me going, right? Here we go. There's the first F-bomb. For those of you who are waiting for it, I got to it first. I want credit.
Yep. Now we're 2 steps from Don Jr. and Kanye 2028. Let's just not go there. Let's pivot. So somebody asked about a minor in reality, and they said, can you speak to what is a minor in reality, and can you speak to a success story that came out of that?
You take the first one. I'll take the second one. There's several.
Okay. A minor in reality.
Let me stop. Why did you get involved? Why did you agree to work for free with me for 2 years before we found a way to get you paid to teach?
Because I desperately wanted to be a part of the class that I desperately wanted when I was 19. I wanted to help create the class that I desperately wanted when I was 19. And since I don't have access to a DeLorean that can take me back to when I'm 19, this is the closest thing that we could do. So, and it was a challenge. I mean, it was a challenge in its new muscles. I really enjoy doing it. And so success stories, I know you started it as a challenge, and we basically came around to the same thing with Ernest, who's genius too. So success stories.
Well, I mean, I would say, do we want to pick on some people? I mean,
Always.
what about our friend at CAA? Our young lady at CAA who is in the lowest chair and just determined to win.
Yeah.
What about, I don't know if we want to name names. I mean, it's hard not to say the name Zach Wilburn out loud. Because that kid, man, if you don't know this kid, know him and watch out. When the first time, you remember you mentioned Kevin Grosh?
Yep.
I mean, a lot of ways, a minor in reality came out of mentoring sessions way back in the day at the EC, which then moved into a new environment over time. When Kevin Grosh walked in, and the first hour and a half, and I knew him a little bit already, right? And we knew each other, blah, blah, blah. Mm-hmm. But when he walked in we spent an hour and a half at a whiteboard, and we kind of helped get his thoughts into 3 big buckets. And I was like, well, that's what you should do. And he came back 2 weeks later with a plan. That's the key. That's it. I mean, you either are or you ain't. And there aren't many of you, right? But when they show up, they're so obvious if you know what to look for. And it takes a long time to know what to look for. People are always asking me well, how do you know? And by the way, I'm not always right. I mean, I've been wrong a bunch.
Yep.
So
let me pivot that, because somebody asked, share on building the right team, and where does its culture emanate? And I think you just answered that question. Is the culture emanates from the person who's driving the vision, right? And if there's not somebody with a vision, there is no culture.
Well, I mean, yes and no. Yes, mostly. The challenge to that is that cult of personality built around a leader needs to be able to transform into a leadership team that eliminates the leader's need to be the leader.
In other words, you want to put yourself out of the job.
Yeah, that's exactly. Well, once you realize what you're good at, what I figured out accidentally man, I wish I could go. Can I borrow your DeLorean when you find it? Because if I could go back to Echo, what I would have done was sold 100% for 20 million instead of 25, right? And I would have walked. I would have taken a 2-year contract and walked. What I did instead was signed up for 5 fucking years. And what I didn't see coming was a Live Nation Entertainment merger with Ticketmaster and Irving Azoff and Michael Rapino at the helm. I mean, you couldn't have looked in your, some people say I'm good at looking around corners. How do you look around the corner and see that coming, right? You couldn't have predicted it. But I didn't know,
walk around
because
the corner and get hit by it enough times, then you learn to look.
Well, and then the other thing you figure out is you start to, after you get whacked on the head hard enough, and you get, I got an MBA in selling that company, and then I got an MBA in getting fucked over, which is cool. That I learned that saved the next deal I was in.
Right.
Like, so I learned those big mistakes are the ones that are the most important, as long as they don't literally kill you. And, it's business. Like, no one's going to die unless you're, playing a really different game. I mean, people do die in business, but not at our level, right? People don't get thrown out of windows or planes doing what we're doing.
Well, occasionally.
Well, yeah, true. Wait a minute. Let me go back. Who owns the record companies? Oh, right. Sorry.
So, yeah. So you're bringing those MBAs, like the hard knock stuff, to these kids in this class, which was kind of part of the point, right?
Yeah. I mean, well, what we would do, what we tried to do underneath, we tried, and I wish we had Ernest on, because the mindset training is the thing that he brings to the party that no one really understands. And he's so fucking weird in the best way possible, but he knows how to do it. And they don't even know we're doing it to him. And we teach him how to write. Like, I get emails from people who have been to college that look like they were written by a 13-year-old. Like, they're horrible. And I'm not hiring you. I'm sorry. If you can't, you don't even need to spell check anymore. The fucking machine does it for you. So the other side of it is we tried to give them shit to do. They started a podcast. Remember when we tried to start the podcast and the thing fell over? The first semester, we didn't even get it out of the ground.
Right.
And I think the other thing that we wanted them to see was us failing. Right.
Fair.
Like, it wasn't about, we are the experts. Am I the expert? I know some shit. Yeah. But I don't know everything. And by the way, the other dirty little secret about that class, in my opinion, is I always got more than they did.
Yeah.
Like, because a 21-year-old kid looks at a problem that 45-year-old lawyers have overcomplicated 5 ways of fucking Sunday, and goes, well, why are we doing it that way? We should do it this other way. And
right.
And you go, well, right, except you don't understand, all the other shit that's laid on top of this, and the politics, and the, like, you don't understand any of that. But you're absolutely right, actually. Yeah. Right. Which is one of your rare, and now I'm going to stroke your ego. It's one of your rare gifts. I've been around a bunch of really smart fucking people, and very few people can abstract globally complicated problems and describe them. Now, you're wrong 55% of the time.
I'm fine with that.
But some of the time you're actually really fucking spot on. And it's just like, well, how are you going to go execute that? That's, but again, you're a fucking, anyway, sorry.
Yeah.
It's the Reid and Mark love fest. I apologize.
No, I appreciate it. I am now going to pivot to a question that came from the crew, and I'm curious. What would you say are the practices and paradigms in the music business that reflect systemic racism, and what can or should we do about it?
Well, I'll take that one. Why don't we all just be fucking human beings to each other?
Yeah. Don't be shitty.
Look, I've been with several strong women in my life. And I have been put on notice of my white male privilege. Anyone who's white and a male is at the top of the food chain. And people at the top of the food chain don't like to be taken from the top. It's not a good place to leave. But I have recognized that I have a responsibility beyond I always saw having a responsibility to give back. If you're successful, you have to give it back. You have to pay it forward. I don't think it's right not to. And people make their own decisions. But for me, that's why I'll take any meeting, right? Sometimes it takes a month, depends on what I'm doing. But I have an obligation to that. I think we could talk about this for hours. Just be a better fucking human, period. We're all in the same boat together, you know, and this them and us, I'm part of it too, but man, the far left is as bad as the far right. And here's the thing, y'all. We don't play by the same rules as those people play by. It's just another world. And we don't even get to visit it. We can, if we have enough money, we can come in there and stroke some checks and get some favors, but there've always been kings and there've always been peasants. And that's what's happening right now, unfortunately. And it will probably continue unless we're all willing to blow the fucking world up. And I'm not sure everybody's willing to do that.
No, why would you want to give up the power that you've got, even if you didn't earn it?
Yeah, well, right. That's exactly right. And by the way, there's some really smart people of color across the spectrum, and there's some really dumb people of color across the spectrum. There's some really smart people, white people, and there's some really dumb white people. Again, we're all human. Let's just be nicer to each other. I wished it was more complicated, and I just don't know that we can. You know, what's that old saying? We're hairless apes with guns and money.
Yep, pretty much. And I think that's been true forever. Felsen, you said that, the white guys, the old white dudes are at the top of the food chain and all over the top, and the second tier management and that in most music industry companies. Let's be honest. They're there in every single company, in every single bracket, everywhere. We're moving slow. This whole country was built on slavery. It just was, and it sucks.
Yeah.
We're moving.
Well,
slowly.
Look, and we're back to this other conversation. Look, possession of cannabis gets you landed in prison, right? The prison industrial complex grew out of Jim Crow, which grew out of slavery. It's not, you can dispute what you want to dispute about that, but them's the facts. And so there's by the way, in states where they've legalized it, they've actually I don't know what I'm not a lawyer, I don't know what the term is, but they basically, you were in jail for cannabis, they let you out. You're done. I don't care where you are in your sentence. Have a nice day. This is no longer illegal. Goodbye.
Yeah.
Which hurts the corporations who power the prisons, who have big checkbooks, who live in Washington, right? And that's the game that none of us can play. I was talking to somebody earlier today about cannabis legislation and about how the hemp and cannabis industries should get their heads out of their ass and get together, because it's all the same evil devil's lettuce to the cops, and fix it once and for all. And he's like, well, how much money will it take to get that? And the answer is no one we know has enough. Well, we know two people that have enough, right? And they're not interested in that fight. So you can forget that. It's got to happen a different way, and it will, or it won't.
Brian said you were saying something about racism, and then we turned into the unequal use of cannabis.
What I'm saying is that cannabis legislation, in other words, the repeal of the federal law, breaks down 60% of the prison industrial complex. Right? A lot of people are in jail and in prison for multiple offenses related to cannabis. Right? There's other stuff. There are bad people who should be locked up, but there's a lot of people who are locked up that are not deserving of it, and we shouldn't be paying for. By the way, law enforcement is incented to do this as well. Right? Like, there's all kinds of components to this, and it's very murky, and you have 70 years of predisposition against the plant. So you're going to lose. Oh, what do we got?
Nothing. Well, Jacqueline just brought something up, and now I'm just going to ask a hard question. So if you actually believe all of this, is Nusachi a B Corp that's going to help benefit the minority communities that have their ass kicked by cannabis?
That's so funny because that's one of the discussions we're having. And actually, weirdly, to that end, Reid and I have been talking about starting a B Corp as well, right? Like, I am a gigantic fan of B Corps. My favorite is Patagonia, right?
Yeah.
And Patagonia's chosen to fight global warming, which, quite frankly, if we don't fight that, we won't be having to worry about fighting racism, because we'll all be the Earth. I don't look at the end of the day. I don't worry about the planet itself. When she's done with us, she will shake us off like a bad case of the fucking fleas that we are, right? But I'd like to keep it as nice as possible for as long as possible. And I think there's more than anecdotal evidence to support the notion that we are fucking it up. So let's do that first. But then, yes, let's right some other wrongs. And look, my co-founder in Nusachi is an African-American woman named Tanya Lewis. I put my fucking money where my mouth is, right? I am in support of minorities, and I would like to do more. There's a gentleman named, you're welcome. There's a gentleman, you guys can go look him up. In fact, we probably have his minor in reality talk, if I'm not mistaken, Reid, don't we?
Yeah, probably.
Daryl Freeman. Does anyone, all you out there in the audience know Daryl Freeman? If you don't, go Google him. African-American kid, grew up in Chattanooga, lived in the projects, started a company in his dorm room at MTSU and sold it for $25 million cash with no investors. Right? Like, what?
Crushed it. And the important thing is then turned around and worked really hard, tirelessly, I would say, to enable other young entrepreneurs of color to continue that. And he and I have danced about the idea of putting the two of us together. And it's really interesting because Daryl has this really strange problem. There's a chunk of the African-American community who hates Daryl because they think he's too white. Darrell Freeman. Yeah, there you go, Ben. Hey, Ben, how are you, man? Thanks, Ben.
Yeah, so look, man, I think everybody should start from the same blocks and may the best man win. I don't care what color they are, right? Yeah, but I also am not going to hire or work with somebody as the token fill in the blank, check the box, and not pick the right person, because I don't step out on the field to get my block knocked off. I step out on the field to knock someone else's off, right? When you get out into business, it's a fucking war. Charlie Jordan's in the room, right? Charlie, You there? Yeah, Charlie knows this, right? If you want to win as a CEO, you have to be prepared to win, and that means you have to work harder and faster and longer than everybody else, and you have to be smarter, and your timing has to be right. And that's a lot of shit to thread together. And then, oh, by the way, when you start getting customers, you got a different problem, and I'd argue it's almost worse than not having any, because customers are hard.
Yep.
If you're getting good ones.
They're needy. Hey, someone asked, do you see the BLM protests or movement having a profound influence on the systemic racism we've been talking about?
No, I don't. I think the market's corrected itself. I think our current president will be stopped, but he will threaten to. I think that the people in control have decided that that's not a big risk factor, or if it was, the markets would be down. And I hate to sound like a crass asshole, but I just think that's where we are. And by the way, oh, well, look, I mean,
think the market's going to crash?
No, I don't think the market will crash. I think we are living in a time, the last upheaval of this level ever experienced in humanity was the beginning of the end, was the printing press, right? The most catalytic change to humanity happened when the press was launched.
I would argue the internet, but okay.
Well, but hold on. the internet is the digitization of all of that media over the last 500 years, right? Yeah. And it's happening literally, and you can do the math. If Jim Griffin is here, Jim Griffin can do the math. Hi, Ted. If you do the math, it's happening 100 times faster, and it's accelerating because it's getting cheaper to compute, and you can do it faster, right? And it ain't slowing down, right? I mean, this thing has more power than the computer systems that put a man on the fucking moon. Hello. And the machines are getting smarter. And, you know, we have all this, you want me to rant on this for a minute? Privacy's fucking dead, y'all. You guys traded it away a long time ago. Don't be fooled, right? You're paying for your subscription to Facebook with your life information.
I think everybody knows that at this point, right?
I don't think they do. I don't think they do because there's this misnomer out there that GDPR is going to save us from that, and that's horseshit. COVID has created a monitoring state of epic proportions that's not going away. There's a book. Hold on, stand by. If you want to have a really bad nightmare, which I don't encourage, but I'm going to encourage you to read this book. Stand by.
No, keep going. You know what I'm going to say is I don't think privacy is
the
dead.
age of.
I think it's shifted.
The age of surveillance capitalism, right? It has shifted, Reid, but it's also being monetized in ways people don't understand, and it's also being used it could be used to determine whether you are friend or foe if we don't change the trajectory of the democracy.
It's being used like that in China right now. We've got social scoring in China.
Yeah, it's already happening.
Yep.
There are cameras everywhere. Hell, I have Nests in here. Google's listening to me right now.
Yep.
Amazon has a 9-figure contract with the CIA, right? They're providing infrastructure through AWS to the CIA. Yep. And you guys all have an Alexa in your house, and it's cute that it plays the new Beyonce record, except it's also listening to you and then serving you ads. Yep. And if you don't, Colin, congratulations. I don't either.
No, you got Google cameras all over the place.
Yeah, but I got Google cameras, but I like Google.
Yeah, you know what, Charlie? Data is knowledge to influence to power. This all ends up at power. Everything ends up at power. Money is a substitute.
Man, TikTok.
For power.
Jesus.
But yeah, TikTok.
Hey, Keller, I'm too old, man.
Yeah.
I'm too old.
Yeah, TikTok is building a facial database of the next 2 generations of our children. That's what it's designed to do. You know, and it's pretty crazy. Hey, there was one up here. I think it's not about hiring someone because they could fill your diversity quota, but more about giving opportunity to people who may be outside typical channels. For instance, the music industry hiring straight from Belmont or MTSU excludes a ton of really smart people.
I agree, but you know what? That's the music business's problem, and and they can fix it, but they won't. Because if they could, they already would have. You know, I can think of like, I know I'm good. I would call myself good friends with Esposito, right? Like in a business where everybody's your friend. John and I are reasonably good friends, right? And I think Espo wants to do the right thing, and I think I don't know who's asking that question, but if you'll send me an email, I'll connect you to him, and let's see if we can't start something there. Randy Goodman is also a fine man, right?
Yep.
Mike Dungan is a fucking motherfucker. We have some good leadership in this town.
In a good way.
In a good way, absolutely. Yeah, no, yeah, no. But I think people want to do the right thing. I think where you get caught up in, or what happens, or what can happen, you know, is things can go awry for the wrong reasons. Look, man, some of why I don't like teaching is the fact that sometimes kids' parents call people at MTSU and question why our class meets downtown. And part of the reason it meets downtown is because I want to make it hard for the kids right out of the gate, because that's how fucking life is, man. It's hard. And I don't care, again, I don't care what color you are. Now, back to the fact that the white guys are on the top of the stack, you're absolutely right. And it's the white guy's responsibility to lift those people up. And all I can do is my part, and I can lead by example, and that's what I do. So, you know, I mean, and anyone else who's in a leadership position, if you're not doing it, are you really leading? If you really believe it, then, you know, my grandpa used to say, watch their feet, not their mouth. Right?
Yep.
Watch my feet.
Still true. Even more so now, because, you know, with companies that are tech enabled, you can move really fast, really quick over a very, very large piece of ground that you used to not be able to do. It's really interesting, you know, and I think a lot of these kids that are coming up with TikTok see things a lot differently and relate to things a lot differently. And that's something we all have to be in.
Hey, Reid, I gotta share something with you.
Yeah, do it.
Our little startup, we just got our first $100,000 check today. It just came in. First paying customer. The 10% down payment on the order.
Nice.
Yeah. So every day, man, every day is a winding road.
Somebody said the price of tech hardware and software is plummeting to zero. Is that possible?
It is. Well, it's not going to go to zero, but it's coming down. I mean, look, I'll give you the best example that I've got. When we started Echo, we went down to Huntsville, Alabama, and we got 2 spaces in a rack in a server farm in a little company owned by a guy named Scott Pell, which was on top of his copying business. So he ran this copying shop, and then he started a co-location and put it on top of his thing. And we went down there, and we were talking, and I said, look, how much space do you have? Blah, blah, blah. I said, I'm going to be your biggest fucking customer. And he's like, yeah, no, you won't. And 2 years later, I was his biggest fucking customer. And at that time, it cost us 7 figures annually to maintain the hardware that we managed, right? And the duplicate hardware that had to be located somewhere else, because you had to have duplicity, because if the co-location facility got blown over, you had to be able to switch it to something. And if you're carrying Kanye and Kiss, and I mean, you name it, Keith Urban on your servers, and they go away, guess who's up shit creek without a paddle? Moi. So you're double 7 figures, and then you got to pay a half a dozen people to care and feed those machines, right? Today, I can stand that same tech stack up, which at the time was at its peak the second largest database of music fans in the world. I can stand that same tech stack up today for $5,000 a month and throttle it up and down based on demand on a all you can drink system, and never talk to a human being and never hire anyone to run it. That's how far we have come. That was 10 years ago, dude, 15 years ago. Yeah, Jim Griffin, yeah, right, the Raspberry Pi. I mean, think of the kind of shit we have access to now that just work, and it all works.
Yeah, like, Jim, I'm not refuting you, although, you know, if you stand at a place in a room and you point at a place across the room and you travel half that distance every single time, you're still never going to get there. Like, tech's not going to be zero. At some point, you know, like it's gonna settle into a commodity. I think that's what we're looking at. Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's right. Hey, see you, Charles Alexander. Mwah. Big love, man. Yeah, look, we could get down in that rabbit hole. I'll tell you what. So it just feels weird to buy a car in a pandemic. But when I figured out that Tesla had a used marketplace and they controlled it, I went hunting for a car, because I want to be in business with the guy who wants to go to Mars, right? And all my friends, and I've driven the car a couple times, and they have a test driving program where you can take it overnight, and they try to, you know, like, but I was just like, I just don't, number one, I didn't know I could buy a used one because I could never find one. And number two, I don't buy new cars. So I bought the top end of the base model, right? And the one that does all of it except ludicrous speed, which I really want. and I let somebody else take the third haircut on value off the lot. And that car, you can see what's coming, right?
Yep.
Like that is the solution to transportation problems.
I got news for you.
Holy shit.
You don't own that car. You're just licensing.
I know. And by the way, that's exactly right. And who needs to own it? This is
right.
the point, right? Jim Griffin, right? It's all going to near zero. And hopefully that's the great equalizer. That's the other thing. The people who cannot, there are two winners in this, and everyone else is stuck in the middle. And when I mean winners in the wrong way, right? You're in the grid, you're on the grid. And if you're too poor to afford it, you're off, you're out, which is why Steve Turner's work around bringing broadband to low-income neighborhoods is so important through his foundation,
and
right?
Musk.
And Musk. And so get everybody on the same playing field, and then watch out, man. Like then you got a different game, and the lower tech goes, the better.
Yeah, but you know what? There's you want to talk about white privilege? You just talked about it, because we're going to have an overpopulation problem, right? You know,
well,
it's not the same game. Let's talk about all of our friends who can't play music out, can't work in bars, can't work in restaurants. When you replace all these jobs with self-driving cars, ships, food makers, robots assembling, like all of this stuff, what's going to happen to these people? We're going to have an overpopulation problem.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Ted, Bob was wrong. Sorry.
Frequently.
Hey, Trey Bruce. Thank you, brother. Good to see you.
Thanks, Trey.
Or hear you. See you, Eric.
See you, Eric.
Anything else? Any questions? Otherwise, I'm going swimming with my daughter.
Yeah, I'm going to mix another song.
Michael Kaufman. Hey, send me an email, dude.
So guys, let me jump in here and speak on behalf of the audience and just simply say, Mark and Reid, you have proven me correct in so many ways today by having you all in this room. You are the smartest guys in the room, and I am so grateful that I am your friend and that you have shared some of your wisdom with our audience. And in keeping with what we are doing, we would love to have you guys back and allow Mark to interview Reid at some point in the future.
Yeah.
Willing to do that.
Absolutely.
All right.
If Reid will do it, I will.
I'm in. Let's do it.
Well, good.
All right.
And Jeff, we can talk about the change in Metro's home occupancy law the next time around, which, by the way, did clear. So can't put up a sign, can't put up a website. Music party.
So, folks, looking ahead to the future, next Tuesday, we are going to have another session like this, and we're featuring two really smart people from LA, one of which was just named. Bob Lefsetz is coming back as the interviewer, and he's going to interview Mark Geiger. And if you're in the music industry, believe me, this one is not to be missed. And then we're coming back on Thursday next week with Jim Griffin in the interview chair, interviewing Kelly Richards. And so I invite you all to come back and drink a little bit more of this Kool-Aid. We're going to keep doing these things, and we appreciate your support. A couple final things. First off, thank you to our sponsors. We couldn't do this without you. And lastly, by all means, everybody wear one of these. It is not a big deal. Please do so. With that said, folks, be safe. To borrow Mark's quote, be a better human, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you.
Peace out. Thank you.